cream pie? No.
Cream?
No. The base for the cream pie.
Pre-baked pie.
Cream pie.
Milk.
Oh God, it's pastry cream. Pastry cream. I need to bring Halloween candy for treats, I guess. Okay, pastry cream. These cream pies are all based on pastry cream as the basic filling, and then you change the flavor according to what you want to get. So today we're making coconut cream pie, banana cream pie, chocolate cream pie. They all start out as your basic vanilla pastry cream filling. Has anybody not made pastry cream yet? Personally, back at the stove, you made it. Okay, Deborah, anybody else? Yes, no?
Oh, no, that was my practical. I aced that.
Yeah? Oh, okay. Anybody else? Be sure that you're the one that's making it today, okay? So quick review on making pastry cream. Start with your pot. What kind of pot do you use?
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. Heavy bottom. What don't you use?
Aluminum.
Aluminum. Which one is aluminum?
One without the rim.
That one's aluminum. This one's stainless steel. If there's any question, come over and look at the pots during lab and ask them to help you identify it. So, heavy bottom. Stainless steel. Why don't you use aluminum? Yeah, it's going to make your pastry cream a weird color, kind of a grayish, greenish, kind of ugly. So let's just quickly go through pastry cream as a review. So you divide your ingredients into groups. First group, what's in the pot? We use milk. Milk and a portion of your sugar. What do you do with that? Bring it to a simmer. You guys are too quiet. This is a review.
You put sugar in your milk before you boil it?
Yes, we do. Look at your recipe. No, you divide your sugar. What's your next step? Does this need to be a quiz?
What's the eggs?
What's in your next step here?
You make
So
sugar,
I need to ask you guys
cornstarch.
seriously. Did anybody read over the lab?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll tell you what I find is that if I don't give you the formula, then you're forced to look it up and read it. If I do give you the formula, like I do in a lot of these labs, what I find is a lot of students will stop reading before they come. So I don't want that to happen. I want to make this easier for you by providing the formula, but if you're not going to read it over, if you're not going to prepared, then we're going to go back to it. Okay, so what's next?
You mix the eggs together.
Okay, so we've got eggs, and what else do we have here? Sugar, and your thickener. What's your thickener? Cornstarch. Which two ingredients do you not want to whisk together first? The eggs and the cornstarch. You put your eggs and your cornstarch together, and what happens? The cornstarch sucks the moisture out of those eggs, particularly the egg yolks, and it leaves them little lumpy that you cannot cook out. So you want to either put the eggs and the sugar together first, or you want to put the cornstarch and the sugar together first, then throw that in with your eggs. So this is in a bowl. What are you going to do next? What's your next step? You're going to temper the milk into the eggs. So you're going to take about half of your milk, pour it in, whisk it in, then put your milk back on the heat, the remaining milk back on the heat, bring it up to a second simmer or a boil, and then you're going to take this bowl of tempered eggs, it has some of your milk in it, pour that into your simmering milk, whisk it in. Once it's completely blended, get rid of the whisk, switch to a wooden spatula, stir somewhat vigorously so it doesn't stick because it would try to scorch. Good morning. And how long are you going to cook it?
Until it starts to thicken.
Till it boils for 1 minute. It has got to come up to a boil, and it's got to boil for a minute. Why? What happens if you don't boil it? Starch doesn't fully thicken. It's going to be thin. So you've got to boil it for a minute. You're going to go through that ugly stage just before it's going to start to boil. It's going to look really ugly, and I guarantee you somebody's going to be tempted to pull it off the heat. Don't. Stay with it. Keep stirring. It's going to pretty out when it boils. Okay, so why do I want you to switch to this instead of using the whisk while you're cooking? More surface area, because this is a scorcher. You've got milk, sugar, eggs, cornstarch, it all wants to scorch. So there's more surface area that you're covering with this. What else? What? You can get into the corners of your pot with this and not with your whisk. What else? Don't over agitate the starch. What happens if you over agitate your starch? Yes, you break your starch bond. You have a thinner mixture. And if you're whisking the bejeebers out of it, as opposed to stirring with this, you're going to break down some of your starch. The other thing is if you're whisking like a mad person, you're going to work up a lot of foam. You can't see if you're boiling or not. Okay, so switch to this. It's a handy tool. Okay, so you're going to boil for a minute. You're going to take it off the heat. What do you do next? Okay, I do want you to strain this. If you were doing something like just the coconut cream pie and you had lumpy stuff in there, maybe you strain it, maybe you don't. Depends on how well you cooked it. But for the others, do strain it for sure. I'd like all of you to strain it. And you're going to get the little white lumps out. There's going to be some egg white in there. And if it didn't cook like really well and it's a little lumpy, you're going to get the lumps out. Now you're going to flavor it. So we are making chocolate cream pie for one of you. So chocolate cream pie, the type of chocolate that you're going to use, the box is labeled 61%. It has a pink label on it, and part of the label is ripped off. But it's, I pulled it out, it's right here. This label you can read. 61% dark chocolate couverture. This is the chocolate that you will use for any of our recipes in here that call for either semi-sweet chocolate, bittersweet, dark sweet, and whatever other terms the author of this textbook uses. Okay, so 61%. We also have on hand unsweetened chocolate. And the label on our box is OBAN, O-B-A-N. That's the unsweetened chocolate. No sugar in this. Anybody eaten unsweetened chocolate by mistake? It's nasty. Okay. And then we also have milk chocolate. That also has a pink label on it. The percentage is 38%. When we talk about chocolate, when we do our chocolate lab, we'll have a chocolate taste. We'll talk about what these percentages mean. We'll talk about all these chocolates. I don't want to get into that today, but I just want to make you aware of which chocolate you choose. Okay, so then we have milk chocolate. So any recipe that calls for milk chocolate, we use this one. We also have chocolate chips. And the box has a green label. It says semi-sweet chocolate cookie drops. So don't be fooled because it says semi-sweet. These are chocolate chips. You do not use those for anything in this class except for the chocolate chip cookies. Okay, that's not a chocolate that you melt down and you add to things. We'll talk about chocolate chips another day. So if your formula calls for semi-sweet chocolate, it's the box that says 61%. It's not semi-sweet cookie drops. Okay, so everybody good on that? Okay, so the chocolate cream pie. You're going to use the 61% chocolate. It comes in little coins or cowlets. Just chop it up a little bit. Throw that right into your finished pastry cream along with the butter and the vanilla. Stir it around, it will melt. You don't need to pre-melt your chocolate. I think the formula, if you follow the instructions in the book, I think it tells you to melt the chocolate. You don't need to do that step. Just chop it up fine, throw that into the cooked pastry cream and it will melt. And then strain it and strain it right into your pastry, your cooked pastry. And I'd like I personally don't like China Capri Chinoise. I'd rather use this. It's faster. You can just smush this through with a plastic spatula, a hand scraper, or a brook scraper. Right into your pie shell. Then you're going to put plastic wrap right on the surface. Why are you doing that? Yeah, it'll form a skin. You'll get that little rubbery skin on it. And then it goes into the fridge. And most likely, it won't be cold enough before we leave today to put whipped cream on it. So we're going to give your pies to tomorrow's class, and then tomorrow's class will give you their pies. So on Wednesday, we'll put whipped cream on their pies. Okay, so they never cool down fast enough unless we go into the freezer. This freezer still isn't working very well.
Actually, we're at 31 degrees on it.
Yeah, I used it Saturday. We opened it up, put something in, and then it jumped up to 40 something. So, but that should be down to 0. So it's not going to work well for us. So the finishing on your cream pie. Sometimes you see meringue on it, sometimes you see whipped cream. We're doing whipped cream, so I want you to have the practice of whipped cream. So you should have your creme chantilly recipe today, but save it for next time. So creme chantilly. creme chantilly or chantilly cream or sweetened whipped cream. So if you have a chocolate cream pie and on your menu say chocolate creme chantilly, or you have a chocolate cream pie with sweetened whipped cream, which you can charge more for. Yeah, the creme chantilly, honestly. So this just implies that your cream is sweetened and normally it has vanilla in it, the creme chantilly. So whipping cream, a couple of rules to follow for whipping cream. You gotta think back to cream puffs. Okay, we whipped some cream then. So does anybody remember anything about whipping cream? That, cold, 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 cold. You want to have your cream cold, you want to have your bowl cold if you're working in a warm room and you're whipped cold. Fat content, remember fat content? Yeah, good guess. The manufacturing cream that we use ranges 32 to 40%. Ours is, I think, somewhere around 36%, our brand. The more fat you have, the more stable your foam is going to be. If you get too low on your fat content, your cream won't whip. So for example, if you took half and half out of the fridge and tried to whip it, it would not whip. So we're going to be using cream, and the cream needs to be cold. And what you'll find with the cream that we buy is that the fat tends to float a little bit. So always shake your carton of cream before you measure it. What happens around here at the school is if you don't shake the cream, then by the time the last person gets that last cup of cream, sometimes it doesn't whip. Okay, so you want to shake that carton. And then the cream, this is something that you could whip up an hour or two or so ahead of time. It doesn't have to be a last minute item. But for today, don't even whip it today because I know our pies won't cool down. So we'll finish those off. So when you whip your cream, you're going to sweeten your cream. The formula in the book calls for powdered sugar. You can use granulated sugar. The advantage of powdered sugar is there is cornstarch in it, tends to stabilize the cream a little bit better. Disadvantage is that you have to sift the powdered sugar. Our sugar, I don't know why, but it is always a little lumpy. So then you try to pipe it, use a star tip, you can get caught in the teeth. So always sift your powdered sugar. Start your cream whipping, get it to the stage where it looks like it is thickening. And I think that your book might say whip to soft peaks and then add the sugar. That's waiting way too long. That's way too long. So just whip until it starts to thicken and then start throwing in your sugar in a couple of stages. And then you want to whip until you get to a peak stage that the cream is still soft and luscious and velvety looking, but it will hold its shape. That will be just about medium peaks. So soft peaks is something that you can kind of spoon onto your plate and it looks nice, but if you try to type it, it won't hold real well. Medium is going to hold real well. If you keep whipping, you go to stiff peaks, and over whipped, you could make butter.
Sweet butter.
Yeah, we had a couple of butters Saturday night. But that's good because then we can save it. So do y'all remember how to save your cream if you've over whipped it? So gently fold in some more liquid cream. So I think we did that last time. Did we over whip some cream? Yeah. Okay.
On purpose.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the cream pies. Questions on the cream pies? Okay. Then we have chiffon pies. Can you grab me the powdered gelatin and the leaf gelatin and a bread pan half full of water and a small bowl with about 2 ounces of water? Okay, chiffon pies. When you hear the term chiffon, you think light and fluffy. Okay, so chiffon pie starts out with some kind of, usually a fruit base. Today we're going to do lemon, but it could be like a raspberry or strawberry chiffon. You can do a pumpkin chiffon or a chocolate, but usually associate it with fruit. So we're going to do a lemon chiffon. You start out with a base that is cooked and thickened, and so it's going to look like pastry cream, the first stage, but different ingredients in there. And then that base is going to be stiffened with some gelatin to help it hold its shape. And then we're going to cool it down until it reaches a stage where we say it mounds and drops from a spoon, and then we're going to fold meringue into it. So I want to cover working with gelatin and meringue and folding. Okay, so like I said, the lemon base is kind of like making pastry cream, so we don't need to do that. So gelatin. Gelatin comes in 2 forms. Nick, can you do that not in class, please? Comes in 2 forms. We have granular and we have sheet, also called leaf. The granular gelatin is the brand we buy is Knox. It's not here? Oh, here's the leaf. Here it is.
Oh, right there?
Yeah,
Is that all of it or no?
yeah, and here's the,
Oh, there. Oh, right
okay,
there.
so here's the leaf or the sheet. Comes in a box. Looks like this. And this makes real cute windows for gingerbread houses. It does, isn't that cute? Looks like little lead glass. Has that. So that's the leaf gelatin. And this is the granular gelatin. So if you've used gelatin before, you've probably used the granular, and it bought it in the grocery store with envelopes of Knox. Okay, if this is not the same as Jell-O. Jell-O is sweetened and flavored gelatin. So that's the granular gelatin there. The way you work with gelatin, we'll start with granular. Or granulated. A couple of steps involved. Pardon?
This is called Unit 1.
No, that's good.
A little heavy.
Okay, granular gelatin. We need to soak this gelatin in water. The water temperature is important. Needs to be coolish. So we're going to hydrate this in cool water. So it could be cool, could be room temp. You don't want ice cold. You don't want hot. Throw the gelatin into something hot and it's going to kind of ball up on you. So you sprinkle the gelatin over the surface and then you stir it in. Okay. So pass that around and it's going to come around again. Right now it's just liquid. In about 5 minutes, that's going to look like applesauce. Okay? So you want to do that gelatin time to absorb moisture. Not hot, not ice cold. Some of you work with gelatin, little packets of Knox. Yeah, the instructions are going to say to sprinkle it over the surface of the water, right? When you get into large quantity baking, you are actually going to want to gently stir or whisk in your gelatin. If you sprinkle over the surface and you're doing large quantity, you might not have enough surface area and then all the gelatin doesn't get wet. So it's important that you get it completely wet. So we're going to hydrate that gelatin. You're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. And what you should get is something that looks like the consistency of applesauce. If it's too dry, too stiff, then you need to give it some more water. If it's too stiff, then you don't have enough water for all that gelatin to absorb moisture and hydrate. So give it a little bit more water. And then set me up just a little saute pan with some water. Use your water on the stove and crank that up. And then we're going to melt the gelatin. You do this by heating. And you can heat it over a bain-marie. It doesn't take boiling water. It just takes really hot water. You can melt it in the microwave. You want to be careful of over-melting, overheating your gelatin. Not over-melting, but overheating it. It will get stringy and kind of gunky, and it toughens on you. So we're going to melt it with heat, just over hot water. And the description for this next step, when you melt your gelatin, the description is that it is clear and syrupy. So it's going to look, I don't know, kind of like a simple syrup, I guess. But the clear, it's important that all the little grains of gelatin are dissolved. So that's what you're looking for when it says clear. So I'm going to pass this around again. And it hasn't been quite 5 minutes, but we're going to kind of push along anyway. So if you look at that, if that sits a little longer, it's going to get thicker than that, but it's sort of like applesauce. You see what I mean about applesauce?
Sugar in this one or no?
No, no. So Ken, when that comes around again, then just take it back and put it in the hot water. So then you're going to melt it, and it just takes a minute to melt. It doesn't take long at all. So today, and then after it melts, then you add it to your product. So today, you can actually skip this step right here because you will be adding your applesauce stage gelatin to your hot cooked lemon mixture. So you get to skip that step. Okay. If you were going to add this to something cold or room temp, then you would do this melting step. Leaf gelatin. Oh, I skipped a little detail. This water, hydrate cool water. You want to have about 4 times the amount of water to your gelatin. So you use a specific amount of water, and that amount of water is from your recipe. Okay, go ahead and throw that in the hot water. Give it a minute. When it's clear, we'll pass that around. Leaf gelatin. You use any amount of water. Just enough water so that you can submerge your leaf. So I have a bread pan here, and I have about 1 inch of water. You put the gelatin in the water. So theoretically, you could put this into a swimming pool, right? Because it's going to absorb as much water as it can, and then you're going to pull it out, kind of shake off the water, and then melt it. So it doesn't matter how much water you have. You just want to have enough that you can completely submerge your leaves. So you submerge those leaves, you give them about 3, 4, 5 minutes. And this gelatin can be a little temperamental when it comes to your water temp. If you're too warm, then you can actually dissolve this gelatin. So you do want to make sure that you're cool. Is that gelatin melting? Okay, so we're going to pass around that gelatin for you to take a look. Clear and syrupy is the description.
Yeah, it's a little warm.
Okay, so this is what your gelatin's going to look like after you melt it. What Ken has there. Did these guys see it? We're in this side. Okay.
A little warm.
And then when this cools down, this is going to set up. We'll actually be able to pull this out and have this little gelatin thing. Okay, so the sheet or the leaf gelatin, after you submerge it in the water, you give it a couple of minutes, it's going to look like this. So you take it out, you shake the water off, you put it in a bowl, and then you put this over the hot water, and it will melt and it will look like that. It's actually a little more clear in color. So a fun thing to do with gelatin, you make kind of a stiff gelatin mixture, and then you take some and you rub it on your face in streaks at Halloween, and you get the scar look. Has anybody done that? No? Yeah, we could do that in class.
So you told us we could play with the gelatin?
Yeah.
Cool. I should have brought my kid.
Yep.
That is so awesome.
Okay. Okay, so there's that 1 liter of gelatin. No, it's your preference. It's your preference. A lot of pastry chefs that were trained in, European pastries like the leaf better, but it's just personal preference. Okay, so gelatin. So one of the things I want to caution you about gelatin, you spill dry gelatin on the floor, sweep it up, don't put it down the sink. No, I had an employee do that, and then water went down, and then it swelled, and we had to have a plumber come out. And if you have something like this left over that you're not going to use, don't dump this down the sink either. Throw it in the garbage. Okay, so that's your gelatin. That acts as a thickener. It helps to set your product. If you use too much, you're going to have something that feels like rubber. So the chiffon pies, if you use too much gelatin, it can be, like eating rubber. So you want to be real careful to use the right amount. So the chiffon pie. So this is what we're doing here. You're going to make your base, the lemon base. That's your cooked base. And then right off the heat, you're going to add your prepared gelatin. So you can skip the melting step. You just do the applesauce step. That can go in. So you want to do your gelatin first. You want to get your water and your gelatin, let that sit while you're cooking your base. Okay, and then by that time, 5 minutes goes by and you're ready to use it. If 7 minutes goes by, it's not a big deal. It's not like it's timed, okay? You just need to make sure that there's enough time for the gelatin to absorb water. So then after you take that cooked base off the heat, then lemon juice goes in, keep some butter. What else goes in on that at the end? Sugar. So you cook your base, you throw in the lemon juice, the sugar, and then you're going to add the gelatin. And this lemon base, you probably should strain this because you're going to have some little whites cook up when you cook your filling. So do strain it. So strain this into a bowl, and you want a bowl that's going to become your folding bowl. You want something that's about this size or one step up. Okay, so you don't strain into something and then move it into something else. So you want a decent size because we're going to be eventually folding meringue into it. So strain into a bowl. And then we're going to get our egg whites and sugar to form a meringue. And you're going to go in this order. You don't want to whip your meringue before your base is done because the egg whites don't hold for a real long time. So I want to talk about whipping egg whites. You'll learn a couple of different meringues. This semester, this first one is called a French meringue or common meringue, sometimes called an old meringue. And meringue is whipped egg whites with sugar. Right. Just plain old whipped egg whites. That is not a meringue. Whipped egg whites with sugar is a meringue. So the first thing is that the egg whites need to be clean. When we say clean, what we mean is no fat in them. So that fat usually shows up in the form of egg yolks. When you separate your eggs, I want you to do the 3-bowl method. Y'all remember doing that? Okay. 3-bowl method. Each time you separate your egg, that bowl's empty, and then you have a holder for the yolks and a holder for the whites. They don't have to be bowls necessarily, but we just refer to it as 3-bowl method. So the egg whites need to be clean. Why don't we want any fat? Yeah, they might not whip up. Worst case situation, they won't whip up at all. Sometimes they'll just kind of whip up a little bit, but they won't reach a peak stage. You want your whites to be room temp. You'll get better volume if they're room temp. You can expect your whites to whip up to about 8 times their original volume. So you start with a cup of whites, you should get 8 cups, somewhere in there. We're going to stabilize the whites with an acid. The acid is going to be cream of tartar. So each baking box should have a small container of cream of tartar. In it, it's a white powder, it's a dry acid. The amount of acid you're going to use it's really flexible in here. So you can use a quarter to a half a ratio. So we're gonna whip a lot of whites during the semester. A lot of meringue, we're gonna make a lot of meringue. So I want you to know that ratio. So today, take a quarter teaspoon of cream tartar, put it in the palm of your hand, look at it, see what that size is, then you don't have to measure it again. It's not, you can see it's flexible in there. You don't have to go dig out your quarter teaspoon, just kind of eyeball it, and if you've got a cup of whites, there you go. If you have a half a cup of whites, do a little less. Okay, so you can be flexible on this. So you're gonna start whipping your whites. You're gonna use medium speed, don't use low. Use medium speed, and on these machines, medium's gonna be about a 5, not a 4. They're kind of slow machines. Get your whites real frothy with no liquid white left, and then throw in the cream of tartar. Don't stop the machine to do that. Just throw it in when the machine's running. Whip more. Get all foam, no liquid, before you start adding the sugar. The sugar is added gradually. And sugar also is a stabilizer. When you add the sugar, for the amount that we're making today, if you used a tablespoon of sugar at a time, kind of sprinkle it around the bowl while you're whipping. Let that whip. What you'll see happen is that sugar will liquefy, your foam will decrease. So when you start to add your sugar, check and see where the line is, where your foam is inside the bowl, and then you're going to add your sugar, and you'll see that that foam drops. So you're weighting down the foam, you're dissolving the sugar, the foam is going to drop, and then you need it to start coming up again before you add any more sugar. So if you start adding the sugar too fast, too soon, you're going to deflate your whites, and sometimes they will never whip up and reach peak stage if you do that. So you want to go gradually. So when you start whipping your whites, give me a shout in class, and I want to come and be peeking over your shoulder. Some formulas will say whip to soft peaks and then begin adding your sugar. That's way too late, especially if what you want is soft peaks. The goal is to get all the sugar in and have it in there long enough that the sugar dissolves. You don't have little grains of sugar. So you've got to get it in before you reach your peak stage. What we're shooting for today is medium peaks. And then that will be folded into your lemon base. So medium peaks. You're going to go through peak stages: soft peak, medium peak, firm peak, and over whipped. Soft peak. When you pull the whip up out of the bowl, or you put your finger in and you pull up some of your meringue, that peak is so soft that you pull up the foam and it just immediately falls over, and you don't have a peak, really. If you look at the foam, you're going to see little tiny bubbles, and they're pretty apparent. You don't have to really search for them. So you're going to see a lot of small, tiny bubbles. Your mixture is going to feel very wet. It's going to feel very light. Continue whipping. You get to medium peak, back to soft peak. If you take your bowl off the machine and you turn the bowl, the meringue will move in the bowl. Continue to medium peak. You pull your whip up or you pull your finger up, that foam stands up, but you wiggle it and the peak falls over. That's medium peak. You'll really have to look hard for those little tiny bubbles, but if you look hard, you'll find them. Your mixture is going to look whiter, it's going to look denser, it's going to feel denser when you put your finger in, it's going to feel drier. And when you move the bowl, it's not going to move, and you can take that bowl and turn it upside down, hold it over your head, and the meringue won't fall out. If it falls out, you're still at soft peak stage. Okay. Continue to whip, you get to stiff peak. Stiff peak, you stand up that peak, it stands up straight, try to wiggle it down, it does not wiggle over. It's very white, it's very bright, it feels really dense, it doesn't move at all. And if you keep whipping and you go to over whipped, then you're going to have kind of chunky looking stuff. So here's the gelatin. So the other thing you can do, you can make Harry Potter glasses for Halloween with these. Or the scars are fun. Okay, so over whipped. It's going to start to separate in the bowl as it's whipping. And it's going to break apart, and if you let that mixture sit for a few minutes, you're going to actually have the water of the egg drip out. You're going to have foam that looks like styrofoam, and then you're going to have liquid at the bottom. Once you get there, it's just not usable. It's not usable. When you have whipped your egg whites, the protein is flexible. That protein stretches and traps little air bubbles. If you over whip, then you've stretched that protein so much that it snaps and it releases the air that you've whipped in, so your whites are going to deflate. You try to fold that into a mixture, you're going to have chunks of egg white. Try to use that for baking, fold it into a mixture and then bake. You're going to have low volume. So over-whipped egg whites is not a good thing. If you're not grossly over whipped where it's completely separating, we can save that meringue by adding a little bit of liquid egg white to it and whipping it and bringing it back. So if you're not too grossly over whipped, you can save it. Okay, so you've made your base. You've made your meringue. Now we're going to fold the two together. So the base needs to be with whites and sugar. Fold together. So you need to get those whites to medium peaks. And before you fold it into your lemon base, that lemon base needs to be at a certain consistency. That consistency, the description with a gelatin mixture like that, the consistency description is that your mixture will mound when dropped from a spoon. And then it's thick enough to fold into your meringue. So you're going to take your mixture, pull some up, the spoon, drop it back on itself, and if it plops down and kind of holds its shape as a little mound, you're good to go. Okay? So then folding technique. When we get there, I'll do a demo on folding. And once again, when you start whipping your whites, give me a shout. I want to be peeking in of that process. Folding process, and we'll do a demo on this when we get there. But folding is a two-parter. First part, you're going to take about a quarter of your light mixture. So in this case, the light mixture is the meringue. You're going to put that on top of your heavier mixture. Heavier mixture is the lemon mixture. So you want to have a bowl this size for the next step up. Your lemon mixture is in here. Okay, take your spatula and you're going to do kind of what I call a rough stir fold to incorporate the meringue into the heavy base. And what this step does is it lightens that base so that then when we go to do our gentle incorporation folding of the remaining whites, you're not going to break down the whites. So this is just going to be kind of a stir fold to incorporate. And then you're going to pile all the remaining light mixture, which is going to be your meringue, on top of that heavier mixture. And then you're going to do your gentle folding technique. You're going to use a plastic, long-handled plastic scraper, and your technique is down through the center, up the side, fold over, turn your bowl a quarter turn, down, up, fold over, turn, and so on. So we'll do that in class so you can really see it. So the imaginary folding here. Your goal through folding is to incorporate a light mixture into a heavy mixture without deflating your light mixture. So it's a very gentle technique. It's not stirring, it's not beating. And your end product should be light and fluffy and fully incorporated. You don't want any streaks. Streaks are going to be streaks of meringue in there. You don't want that. You want to have everything completely incorporated. Then you take that mixture and you pile it into your prepared pie crust. So chiffon pie should look like a mounded pie. It shouldn't be flat. And it's often unadorned. Sometimes it's garnished with whipped cream and maybe some fruit, but we're going to leave ours unadorned. But you should have a mounded pie when you're done. And then into the fridge, gelatin mixture usually will take another 1 or 2 hours to fully set to its full capacity. But after about an hour, we'll be there with it. Okay, questions on the chiffon pie? Yeah.
Do you have to cover that one?
You don't have to cover that one. It won't get a skin on it. Yeah. When we get to the point where we're trying to thicken our lemon mixture, after it has the gelatin, we're trying to thicken our lemon mixture so that it mounds and drops from a spoon. If you have whipped your whites and your lemon mixture isn't quite thick enough, we can put it on an ice bath. But you want to be aware when working with gelatin, because it can go from being kind of soft and not set, and then over ice to being set in like 2 minutes. You know, it'll go really fast. So the ice bath trick is great, but somebody needs to babysit it, and you need to probably gently stir it while it's chilling. And once it just starts to thicken, then yank it out of the ice because it'll continue to chill and thicken. If you find that you've gotten too thick, take that lemon mixture back over to a bain-marie, warm it up, soften that gelatin, melt the gelatin, and then just let it sit again, go through the process. So if it gets away from you, just soften it again. You don't want to use this lemon mixture when it's too firm because it won't fold into the meringue. It'll be gentle lemon mixture. Okay, questions? Okay, normally I have you start with the vanilla or the cream pie so that it can chill, but it's not going to chill so that we finish your day, so it really doesn't matter. So actually, I'm gonna have you start with the lemon chiffon pie first, so that that has more of a setup time, and then do the cream pie second. On this formula for the lemon chiffon pie, there are yolks in the filling, and then there are whites as part of the meringue that's folded in. It usually comes out perfectly that you have the same number of, that you have the right number of eggs that gives you, I'm saying this backwards, you'll have the right amount of yolk and white without having to add to either one of the extra egg. That makes sense. Kind of, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Start with like about 4 eggs, you might get there. Questions? Anything? On the lemons, we have a lot of zested lemons that we need to use because they start to spoil quickly afterwards. Some of them still have some zest on them. Get what zest you can. If you don't get a lot of zest for your pie, don't worry about it that much. But I want to use that rather than the bottled lemon juice because it's we're going to lose those lemons unless we use